Welcome back to Cox Connections, exclusively on Cox 9 Roanoke. I'm Kim Stanley. Small businesses are the backbone of our economy. In 2009, the number of business startups reached their highest level in 14 years, according to the Kauffman Foundation. And this was during the height of the recession. In the most recent Cox Business Executive Discussion Series, our panelists talked about the challenges and rewards of entrepreneurship in the wake of the Great Recession. Our panelists were David Catalano, President and founding partner of Modea, Terry O'Shaughnessy, Executive Vice President and the Chief Lending Officer at Hometown Bank, Wayne Flippen, the Director of the Roanoke Regional Small Business Development Center, Jim Flowers, Senior Executive and Consultant to technology-based companies, and Laura Godfrey, the founder of ClairV. Wayne Flippen and Laura Godfrey are here to give us their impressions of the discussion. Thank you both for being here today.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. First, Wayne, why don't you tell us a little bit about the Chamber Small Business Development Center?
We are hosted by the Roanoke Regional Chamber, and we're one of 29 small business development centers across the state. And our sole purpose is to help small businesses get started and grow. And we do that by offering classes, by offering free counseling in all sorts of areas, and by advocating for small businesses to do well.
Speaking of small businesses, why do you think that we're still seeing so many startups and small businesses get started, considering that the economy is still recovering?
Well, I think that first of all, it has been a very uneven recovery. There are a lot of people that are either still suffering from unemployment or underemployment, or they're employed but not in the areas that they really have a lot of interest in. So there are a lot of people that are still looking for something else. And some of these think, well, now's the time, to look at considering a small business. Also, there's been a lot of things on the news and the press talking about free money. Some people just think, well, gosh, I want some of that government money, so which is not really there, by the way. So there's that. And then there's people that are truly seeing a need in this kind of economy. There are true needs, and people see a niche and they say, well, now's the time to go in there and see if we can make it happen.
Mm-hmm. Laura, I tell you, you were so exciting on the executive discussion series. You were just so dynamic. But what inspired you to start ClairV?
Most people I don't know any other way. I come from a long line of entrepreneurs, and I grew up in an entrepreneurial family where both my father and my mother ran their own businesses, and so I just thought that was normal, that was normal behavior, and that's what you were supposed to do. I did work for several large Fortune 500 companies before I started ClairV, which was nice because it kind of gave me I was able to see both sides of the picture. Mm-hmm. But yeah, mostly just because I love it, and I love being able to direct my own path.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very exciting. Work for yourself, and
yeah, sometimes really tough.
Yeah.
I think most people think that it's, you get to hang out in your living room and eat bonbons all day, but I work much harder for ClairV and Polish than I ever worked for a larger company, just because it's nonstop. I sleep about it. I mean, when I sleep, I dream about it. My husband says it sometimes when I talk in my sleep. He hears me talking about ClairV, so yeah, it's nonstop.
Yeah, definitely. Well, capital is just so important to startups, and that was one of the topics during the Cox Business Executive Discussion Series. Talk a little bit about capital and how small business owners can get access to it, and just some of the things that we heard from the series on that.
Well, first of all, I think the session was great because we had a combination of resource people and we also had owners, and I think the audience really liked that combination. What we tell people is, first of all, before you look to start a new business or to grow your business, you have to make sure your financial house is in order, your personal finance, because most small business is not disconnected. It is rather very connected with your personal finances. Get your personal finances in order. Have a plan. Doesn't have to be a formal business plan, but you have to have a plan that looks and acts like it's a viable company. Third, as Terry O'Shaughnessy mentioned, banks have money and they want to lend it, but they want to lend it to qualified borrowers, and that's really the big rub right now. The regulators and the banks have really tightened up what they consider to be a qualified lender. And personally, most people have seen a reduction in their personal finance, so there's a gap. Mm-hmm. And so even though the banks have money, they're not necessarily lending. And so we looked at bootstrapping, utilizing every resource you possibly can that doesn't take borrowing money, and that's really the key to it. And we're also trying to connect people with some of the alternative sources, such as the 460 Angel Capital's Capital Investment Committee, and other alternative sources to funding.
Good
I have
feedback.
to say too, when I first moved to Roanoke, we'd already been in business for 2 years, but we went to go talk to the chamber because I was looking for some help with investment capital, and it was a good reality check. Yeah, I really appreciated the advice.
That's good.
That you all gave. Yeah.
Well, I tell you, what advice do you have for entrepreneurs? You started ClearV, and it has now become an internationally known company. I mean, just tremendous success. So what advice would you have for entrepreneurs?
Bootstrapping, definitely. I think even if there is money, I think that there's an enormous value in learning all aspects of the business yourself, having, growing organically, because I think then you learn all the different pieces of the business, and you have control over the way that you grow. I think early on, especially because I didn't really know what we were doing, and I thought other people knew better than I did. I listened to some outside sources a little bit too much, and we got off track a little bit. Whereas I think that advice is always good, but there's figuring out what is advice and what you take in and what you really know already about the business.
That's great. Well, thank you both, and thank you both for being a part of the Cox Business Executive Discussion Series. Again, it was a great series, and it's good to see you on the show as well.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. It's cool to be green. The Roanoke Valley Cool Cities Coalition recently recognized several organizations and businesses, including Cox, for their environmentally friendly ways. We'll find out the other Cool Citizens Award winners after the break.